Good morning. You're listening to Drinking Socially, the official Untappd podcast.
Your weekly look into what's happening in the Untappd community and the world of beer.
This episode is brought to you by Untappd and the Untappd merch store. Use the coupon code PODCAST and you'll get 20% off your next purchase at store.untappd.com. And good morning again, everyone. I'm John. I love beers with a little extra ABV. I love beers too, but I spent a lot of my formative years drinking, like, air quotes, bubbly football water. And I felt like craft beer was a great way to add some efficiency to my life. Enter the Belgian Triple, the Imperial IPA, and the majority of my high ABV check-ins, the Imperial Stout. If beers were superheroes, the Imperial Stout would be Todd McFarlane's Spawn. Just a regular old special agent trying to get through his 9 to 5, and then all of a sudden he's in a sworn pact with a new boss, and he's packed full of ABV. I don't know where this analogy was supposed to go, but if you subscribe to Drinking Socially, you can guarantee you'll be one of the first to know if there's ever a Spawn remake. Otherwise, get ready for some late show antics as Harrison and I crack open 2 beers that should probably be shared with friends, but that's a different badge. Harrison, what badge are we working on tonight?
Thank you, John. Yes. So we're going to do the one and only Sky's the Limit. And so if it's been a little bit since you guys have earned this badge or need a little reminder of the hint, the description is you don't always intend to go for beers with a double-digit ABV, but when you do, you make it count. Cheers to you, but be careful. 10% and up can really pack a punch, just like Spawn. Is
that on the badge?
That's an editorial. It's added by me. The emphasis is mine.
It really should be.
I know, right? And we've got some killer beers to earn this badge or level up or get close to leveling up with it if we need a couple more beers to get there tonight. John, what are you starting off with?
Well, Harrison, I'm starting off with a beer from a brewery that I always mispronounce. I call them Adroit.
Love it.
But I don't know if I stole that from you or if I just keep misreading it, but I believe it's technically Adroid Theory. Their label art is incredible. All of their these guys are the ones you see the label art that looks like Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe, right. If I remember the 80s correctly.
You do.
This particular one is a 13.7, so I'm going a rattler above the 10% limit here.
Wow, great unit of measurement. Yeah.
How many radlers of beer is that? On Untappd, it rates a 4.12, which in my eyes is spectacular. The notes that Adroid Theory gives us is, after a brief hiatus, we're bringing back our flagship stout. Strikes a perfect balance of bitter or sweet, creamy or full-bodied, roasty or malty. Huh. This is not an adjunct-heavy Imperial stout like I'm used to. And before I crack it open and ask what you're drinking, Harrison, anybody that's drank these beers from Adroit Theory, they for a while were doing a lot of online shipping. That's how I got this one. For a little bit, they were shipping to North Carolina. On each of their beers, especially if you go to check it in on Untappd, you'll see like this Dia de los Muertos that I'm drinking, and it'll have a number behind it. This one's Ghost 906. And I can't speak for the brewery, but they do say that it's a tracking system they use, that ghost number, perhaps collectible beers, or we see this before on breweries' labels. But I also think there's a little bit of an homage to Nine Inch Nails in there. If you're a big Nin fan, their first, I think, 6 albums were like Ghost 1, Ghost 2. So based on the beautiful artwork, I have to assume these guys enjoy some decent music at the brewery, and the Ghost measuring system is probably an homage. And that's what I'm going to tell myself as we just Trent Reznor through this beer. Harrison, what's in front of you over there, man?
Yes. So I did go, nice pop. I did go the pastry stout route, courtesy of you, John, and have
that looks familiar.
Yeah, go some pastry works from Froth Brewing out of Buffalo's own. And I have not had this beer before. Super pumped about it. As you guys probably know, if you've been listening to Drinking Socially for a bit, I don't get around to many pastry stouts, but I'm, new year, new me. Instead of trying to cut calories, I'm just, come on, give me all your calories. If you're losing them, send them my way. That's fine with me. It's mass gaining season. So I figured, why not? And it sounds wild. So it's a pastry stout, 10%. It carries a 4.24 rating on Untappd, which is fantastic. So that got me excited out of the gate. And it has one of my favorite foods in it, peanut butter, alongside graham cracker, coconut, and some milk sugar for good measure. So this is going to be fun. I'm kind of jumping a little bit out of my comfort zone. And as I pour this and ready to enjoy it, it looks like, John, you have already jumped in and grabbed some first sips. So what do you have from the Adroit guys? What have they produced over there?
Dude, this is really good. That's my pedestrian review.
Good.
The thing I'm left with most, I already took a decent sip of this beer, and the whole inside of me is nice and warm.
Yeah.
So that's good. It doesn't taste, it's not barrel aged. It doesn't taste it anyways. I don't believe it's barrel aged. There's no extra fancy, delicious pastry ingredients in here, though I usually welcome them in my stouts. But it's rich, it's thick. To me, I get like really roasted black coffee, but not overbearing. If I had to guess an IBU on here, it'd probably be sitting around 30, 40. It's not very bitter tasting at all. Okay. This is way better than I expected it to be. And I'm going to take credit for that because I took this beer out of the refrigerator about an hour ago. So It's just been kind of smart. Like French wine temperature rising here to, it's not quite room temperature, but that I feel like this would have been a little bit more harsh if I drank it really chilled. I'm excited to keep drinking this. We'll see where things go. Harrison,
yes.
How are we doing with an atypical pastry stout on your palate?
Yes. So this is great, which again, fantastic, right? Of course, the guy who refuses to drink pastry stouts maybe secretly loves them. Is that what's happening? Am I learning that about myself, that perhaps it's the fear of the love that will come from enjoying more of them is why I keep myself away? Some kind of weird love story happening between me and pastry stouts. I don't know. What I do know is that the nose of this is get a lot of the graham cracker. In the mouth, though, it's it tastes really like a bit of peanut butter. It's not overpowering, but you definitely get it. And then it kind of finishes with a little sweet pop, maybe from the milk sugar, maybe the coconut. And then I get a lot of coffee flavors you'd find in a fair amount of other Imperial stouts. So there's, while you may think, or maybe I was slightly worried there'd be too much going on here, there is not. I mean, this is really nice. Mine is ice cold though, so I did not do the smart thing and pull it out of the fridge. However, that kind of gets me excited to enjoy it the rest of the cast now, because I know it'll change as we keep talking and drinking. But so far, I mean, this is, again, sneaky. It doesn't really taste like 10%. So I'm going to try to remember that each time I take a sip and not gulp it, because that's kind of what I'm used to doing when there's a nice cold beer in front of me. So I'll try to work on the sipping. This is wonderful so far. First thing from Froth for me, heard nothing but great things about him. So yeah, now another brewery I'm going to have to hunt down. Wonderful.
That gives you a good reason to go to Buffalo, which we won't talk about anymore on this podcast.
Until next year or next season or whatever.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, a lot of very cool, like the coconut and the peanut butter together. That's actually getting more interesting by the second. So, all right, so why are we drinking these beers? Well, obviously to help us level up the Sky's the Limit badge. So we pulled some cool stats about this for you guys to enjoy with us today. So far, the Sky's the Limit badge has been unlocked more than 1 million times. So the first level unlock here, 1.1 million unlocks. So good work, everyone out there enjoying big old beers. And for me, when I think of like a higher ABV beer, my first thought is always like Imperial Stout. I don't know why. That's just where it goes.
Same.
Right, and I feel like a lot of people might be in that same boat for whatever reason. Really interesting, though, this badge, and really, again, the only requirements are that it's 10% ABV or higher. The top 5 beers that have unlocked it have mostly been Belgian beers, which isn't surprising. Obviously, a lot of those are quads, triples. They're
I would have guessed triple right. New England's over the last little bit.
I know. Yeah. And so the number one beer that's unlocked this badge the most was St. Bernardus's 12, which is amazing quad, perhaps one of the best. And then really the only stout in the top 5 is Dragon's Milk from New Holland, which is also a killer Imperial
stout. Man, that's a great beer we should put on the podcast. I'm sorry to derail you.
No, you're right, though. So many variants. It was one of the first, actually. I hope I'm not spoiling Dragon's Milk's secret, but it was one of the first Imperial Stouts to use lactose in it. And it's kind of like a sweetener and an adjunct and to jack up the ABV a little bit. And now that's kind of commonplace, is to have a lot of Imperial Stouts have lactose hanging around in there. So it's an important beer for a lot of reasons. But La Trapp's quad is in the top 5. Roquefort's 10, which is amazing. Golden Draw Classic. So really almost like the who's who of famous Belgian beers. And then Dragon's Milk.
And Dragon's Milk hanging out with them, as it should be. Right. What a flight that would, of course it'd be a good flight. You'd be feeling great by the end of it. But
yeah, it'd be sawing logs. But we're going to put more into this info in the show notes, so you can kind of look a little bit more about how many unlocks and stuff like that, and continue that with the badge series as best we can. But yeah, so John, let's talk about how we enjoyed this badge, how we got it. Do you remember the last time you earned it, first time? What do we got here?
I do remember the last time I earned
good.
it.
Probably wasn't too long ago.
It wasn't. It was a little while ago. The last time so this badge levels up every 5 beers you drink that are above 10%, I think.
Right. Correct.
So the last time I actually leveled up this badge was for our season finale when we did Drinking Socially season 3. I don't know, what was that, like Christmas-ish?
Indeed it was.
Time is certainly a flat circle on this podcast, but it wasn't long ago. And I leveled it up with Prairie's Christmas Bomb. So that's actually pretty cool that we're talking about this on the badge now, 3 episodes later? Turns out, I guess maybe I don't drink enough big beers.
What level are you at, though, John?
52. Yeah, 52.
That's pretty good. That's a lot of beers. That's a lot. Because mine is much sadder. I'm just at, so I share the same most recent unlock from the Christmas Bomb from Prairie.
Awesome.
So that's cool. Serendipitous there. However, I have a lot of work to do, as some people pointed out on social media and commenting on last episode where I had leveled out before the can and John had not yet. Some people were like, don't worry, John. I'm sure you're going to crush Harrison on Sky's the Limit. And here we are. So John's in the 50s. I am still at level 9. Womp, womp. But yeah, I'm not going to defend or make excuses.
I know that in my head, you're the responsible adult beer drinker with a palate, and I'm more the, what have I not had before? What weird stuff is in this? Is this a beer with rocks from space? Great. I'm in.
I'd be with that.
But I would have assumed. I feel good. You crushed me on the can badge, so I'm glad to know where I stand.
Right, we're going back and forth here, and I mean, right, yeah, most nights I'm reaching for a Sierra Nevada. Everybody knows that. So, but now here I am, 2021. I'm doing pastry stouts. We're going to see. I don't think I can catch up to you this year. That'd be a lot. I'd be dead. But so I'm not even going to try. But something cool also about this badge is we kind of dug back into our check-ins and saw the first beer that kind of qualified for it. And for me, that was back in 2014. This badge has been around since October 8th, 2013. 2014, I had KBS from Founders, that year's version of it, and that was the first time, that first check-in that kind of led to level 1 of this badge. John, do you remember where your Sky is the Limit journey officially began?
I'm scrolling.
Yep, there it is.
So the first badge, I can tell I was in Buffalo. The first time I earned this badge, it was with a beer called Barrel Aged Sump with Rwandan Kyoto coffee, I think. It was from Perennial. And then I drank an Imperial Sponge Candy Stout from Resurgence Brewing in Buffalo. And I was at a bar. I said I wasn't going to talk about Buffalo, but I was at a bar in Buffalo when that happened, with an amazing tap list. I mean, there were beers there that they had, like, remember when Bell's Brewing did the Planet series?
Yes, great series. Sure.
They had, I swear they almost had every single Planet behind the bar, which they wouldn't allow me to drink or buy. But amazing beer selection. I was in over my head, and I went for something large, to help grease the wheels. And it was at a place called the Muertos.
Oh yeah,
which is tap room spelled backwards. I don't know if Mike Schatzel knew when he set that up or not, but he's a great member of Buffalo beer scene. There's a lot of good places to drink there because of him and his team.
Yeah, amazing stuff. They're killing it. Also behind Thin Man, which is an amazing brewery in Buffalo. That's pretty cool. I know that's such a great beer. You're right. We could talk about Buffalo all episode, but
we'll stay away from some parts of it.
But yeah, fun. We both unlocked this most recently with the same beer. And as a reminder, if you missed that episode, check it out. We put together a pretty compelling argument. Not that it needs one, for Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie. So that was a fun end of the season. On the 23rd of December, or whenever that was, about the end of December. The end of season 3. Whenever
your December ended, where you live.
I mean, right, dates and times and all those things have, as far as I can tell, really kind of become relevant.
Do you remember the first episode we did of Drinking Socially when we inherited it from Tim and Kyle? I think the first beer we ever put on was called Time is a Flat Circle.
Right. And that was such a great name, and as we just called the episode that. And I think it was Time is a Flat Circle / the other beer we had, which I don't.
Thank God for Untappd, because I wouldn't. Yeah.
I could look. I'll do that later. But crazy times. We've been doing this for a hot minute, and season 4, again, pumped and excited that we're talking about badges, because that really is, it's what hooked me in the early days of Untappd. And I still am. Like, I'm that guy who's like, I want each check-in. Like, I wonder what badge I'm going to get. Still, so it works.
There are still some that we haven't earned.
True.
Tried to look it up earlier. I think there's close to 3,000 different badges on Untappd, between checking in at a bowling alley and checking into a Rattler and everything in between. There's quite a bit of core, and I think we're due. Hopefully soon we'll see some fresh new core badges released sometime this year. But you're right, Harrison. Like, early on, I was using Untappd because I didn't know what beer I was holding. And a couple of months after that, it was helping drive the next beer I was going to go buy, right? Like, if I drink 2 more breakfast stouts, I'll level up the coffee something or other badge, and I don't have that yet, and right. my wife does, so I should at least catch up there. And it was cool to kind of earn an arbitrarily useless reward, but I don't care. I play video games. Untappd makes it fun.
Video game. Your controller is a beer, and I guess your phone, but whatever. That's that beer, your controller. That's a T-shirt. Patent pending. We'll work on that.
That's why PlayStation 5 is taking so long to roll out. They were doing an experimental new controller.
Right. It keeps shorting out. I don't know why. It keeps getting wet.
I can't get through the game.
I'm asleep again.
Okay, so yes, if you haven't listened to the Christmas episode, maybe go back there and one way communicate to Harrison on whether you think Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not. Or I guess I could issue like a public redaction. I went off pretty hard about a Batman movie on that episode. Right. And it turns out in my head, I was thinking of a different Batman movie that Harrison kind of filled me in after we got done recording that. I was thinking of the movie where Val Kilmer was Batman, I think. And I was, am I remembering this right, Harrison? Or am I still misplacing it?
Was it the one with Mr. Freeze you didn't like? Was that the one?
I was thinking of the movie where George Clooney was
exactly.
Batman.
George Clooney and Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy, and like they just throw in Batgirl at the end, right?
Yes, all of the educated and well-reasoned commentary I had about Batman was meant for the George Clooney Batman.
George.
So he had it coming. He's done some great things since then. I'm sorry to the other Batman here we go. I'll just stop talking about Batman. Speaking of mistakes I made in episode 1, we talked about the newbie badge and how you can level up your milestones. And through sheer absent-mindedness, I said, no, you could drink Founders all day 50 times and you can't. You have to drink. Your milestone badges only come from drinking unique beers. Otherwise, it would probably get really boring on your 10,000th check-in of Guinness to earn the elite Uber badge. Yep. But well, maybe it wouldn't. But either way, you got to branch out. You got to try new stuff. So there's some error corrections. Sorry, guys.
Cool. All right, what's next? We got a cool verified venue we're going to talk about. This one is perfect for this episode.
Thank you, Harrison. So there's a brewery in Mass in or near a city that I would say, Worcester, I think is how you would say it.
Not how it's spelled, but that's how you say it. Yep.
Precisely. If you're reading it on a map, you're already not from there. But there's a brewery up there called Greater Good, which is a good thing to put on your resume, but also I'm pretty sure the line in the sand for them, I couldn't find a mission statement, but they only brew Imperial beers. Great. Are you trying to level up your Sky's the Limit badge? Take Harrison there and, well, maybe not right now. They are still open. They've been verified on Untappd, so you can check them out and you can see what they're serving. Funny little quip. They do have guest taps only so they can serve beer less than 8%, I think. So you can check out their tap room, their beer list right on Untappd. If you live near the area, you can follow them. They got their start from a guy whose last name I'll butcher, Paul Wengender, mixture of the two. Guy named Paul, who actually grew up initially in Rochester, New York, which has a pretty cool beer scene there. Harrison's talked about how that place is kind of blown. That's where Other Half set up their
right. Yeah,
their second
right. Yeah,
Rochester. So Paul gets his start. He's in biotech. Has a pretty successful run there, and then like so many other people in biotech probably says, this is a drain, I want to do something fun, opens up a brewery and creates Greater Good, gets this awesome team around him. And I've only had one beer from them. It was sent to me by I found it legally while I was visiting, and I remember thinking, that's amazing, like what an awesome brewery concept to create. Their founder has this amazing quote in an interview where someone asked him, like, how was, transferring from a biotech company to a brewery, how did that work? And he says, I would say that both have forces of art and forces of science that must converge to produce successful endpoints, which I love, right? I want to. It's such a nerdy way to say, like, it's a little bit of luck and a little bit of spreadsheet, but I mean, I feel the same way about cooking a good meal. There's a Maillard reaction that happens if your steak's going to taste good, but really you can just put butter on it too. There's a little bit of art and a little bit of science. Did that quote, like, especially to you, Harrison, does that quote kind of resonate on how the two can be really similar. I don't know how much biochemistry you've done in your garage, but
college a little, right? Biochemistry in my garage, officially none, but you know where to find me if you're curious. Yes, it absolutely does. And not just, so Paul's not alone. I mean, I already mentioned them once today, but we probably all know Sierra Nevada is my spirit animal when it comes to breweries. And on every single one of their pages on their website that talks about their beer, breaks down the ingredients, the ABV, the IBU, they have the same quote, and it's, "Brewing is as much art as science, and all beer specifications and raw materials are subject to change at a brewer's creative discretion," which is very similar, right, to what Paul's talking about. And really, in my own personal experience, I mean, that a lot of the times you are, right, your materials, you run out of something, or maybe need to swap a grain out because one didn't arrive in time, or we got some brand new hops, let's try it out. They're similar to this bittering hop that we usually use. We want to start moving to this hop, so we're going to swap out Warrior for Apollo, which is what we did actually at Neshaminy Creek, where we had a Warrior's a bittering hop, and we used it for years. And the head brewer had experimented with Apollo, and he just liked the quality of it, and we added it to a few beers as a bittering hop, and then wholesale changed it out, bought a huge Apollo contract one year, and that became like our bittering hop in almost all of our beers. So, but that started out as kind of like, we're out of this, let's try this. Hey, that's pretty cool. So it's more calculated. I mean, that's always like a good point I like to make. It's not like you're kind of just hoping that you throw something in here and it works. Like there are...
That's the romantic side of it.
Right. Like there's scientific breakdowns of all these hops and all these grains. Each one has like a recommended replacement or 5, so that if a brewer is in a tight spot, he can go, I'm out of Cascade, will Centennial work? Yes, it will. And here's how more or less you should add to hit the same IBU target that you want to hit for this beer recipe. So there's always but that's it. That's the dance of art and science. Is I want to swap this out. What does that mean? Let's make sure the science kind of guides me a bit here, so I don't end up with a complete mess. And that was it didn't happen often, but it happened enough where it was noticeable, and it was kind of to be expected of you as a brewer that if something wasn't available, you could find a solution for it, and it would be the appropriate one. So that was a lot of fun. And then that's to say nothing for, we did have a pilot system that was pretty crazy. Let's try some wild stuff. Let's blend some barrel-aged beers. That's where, art and science comes together as well, of just sampling 5 barrels of beer and going, all right, I want 20% from this barrel and blend it with 60% from this one, and the rest fresh beer, and that's going to be it. We'll sit on that for a month, and then we'll bottle it. And when I finished my career, is a lot of the barrel work, which was grueling, but it is, that leads with kind of like, once they're in the barrels, you can only control so much, and it really is kind of waiting, being patient, and then being creative when you finally get that beer in a cup and a glass in front of you and can decide what to do with it next. It's a lot of fun.
I remember you talking about being the cellar master or rotating cellar master, and how, I don't want to say horrible, but how tough of a job that was when we did our Beer 101 series last year. So I think that's a good wrap. If you're in or near Worcester, Mass, check out Greater Good, or if you're interested, check them out on Untappd. Harrison, you got any beer left? Has it gotten any better as it's warmed up a little bit? It's different?
Yeah, definitely. Now it's tons of graham cracker. It's really like graham cracker coffee chocolate is kind of how this is finishing for me, with just a little bit of coconut. And I'm getting like the lactosey kind of like lactose tongue, if you will, if that's a thing.
Yep.
It's kind of
now
tickling and stick. Yeah, it is now tickling and sticking there. So, I can't help myself. But yeah, it's yes, and it's working. It's doing what it should do. But no, I'm glad I gave it some time to warm up and then just chug this thing for many reasons. Mostly though because it's certainly the flavors are kind of coming together. I don't know what I'm saying. John, how are the Adroit folks doing over there on your taste
I told
buds?
myself I wasn't going to drink the whole can while we did this podcast, but I've already refilled once.
Yep, same.
Aside from that, final sips, just as good as first sips. It's lost even more of its kind of bitterness to me, or I've gotten more used to it, and now it's. I can't say chocolatey. I can't say coffee-y. So I'm going to cop out, and I'm just going to say it's kind of like creamy roasted warmth. I don't know. I feel like I should be in a leather chair.
Yes.
With a well-stoked fire and a desk full of documents in front of me, like paper documents.
Right, furiously going through them. Where is it?
A violin in the corner that only brings me bad memories.
You betrayed me. You betrayed our family.
Yeah.
I have the key. The key is here somewhere. Right, I can see
You get
that.
it. That's exactly what this beer's review should be.
Right.
Betrayed by a violin,
Exactly.
but almost 14%.
Right. I love it. That's it. That's a good beer name, Betrayed by a Violin. I'm sure we'll see it soon. Whew. All right. Well, what an episode, folks. I got to have a kind of funky pastry in a can. John drank some liquid warmth, which sounds more exciting by the moment. Hopefully we leveled up, or almost leveled up, on the Sky's Limit badge. Hopefully you guys do as well. And we learned that the greater in Greater Good Brewing's name probably refers to their ABVs, which is wonderful. But what's next week looking like, John? What's the plan?
Beautifully said, Harrison. Next week, get ready for some playground memories.
Ooh.
As we feature the game of tag. We're going to be talking about how you can play tag and drink beer, or drink beer on a playground. I'm sure it'll be a little bit different than that, but something we should all do more. Tag our friends, tag each other. If you haven't earned a particular badge regarding tagging people, you can even tag me and Harrison. We'll talk about it next week.
Till then, though, cheers!
Bottoms up, friend.